today's topic is QA in translation. So it's quite a niche topic. So Nikhil, maybe we can start in a couple of minutes if you can just introduce. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, hi everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Brian and FTBC to our webinar series. This is actually our fourth session in this series. We have covered three topics before this. We started this series with technology in translation. Then we covered MTP, and latest was subtitle translation. So we had good response, and I hope you will like this session as well. Today's topic is QA in translation. Uh, Now think about quality assurance. Uh, Whatever your own industry, you will have some form of QA process in place to evaluate the things you do at your end. Maybe manufacturing, service, retail, or any other sector. Someone in your business will be looking out to make sure your customers are satisfied with the product or service which they are receiving. Uh, Here's the thing: translation business is no different. Uh, so what does actually QA look like in the translation industry and how it is done? Today, Salil is going to help us with this process in translation industry in detail. He has worked extensively in this particular function across industries, maybe translation, localization, IT. I guess he is the best person who will help us to understand this particular function in translation process in detail. Salil, I guess over to you.
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Nikhil. Hi all, and welcome to this forum. Today's topic, as Nikhil has already introduced, it is translation QA. So QA in translation. Um, so far, last discussion that we had on subtitle translation was very interactive. We had guest speakers as well, and then we had some questions as well from the audience. So going forward, in fact, from today's session itself, we want to make it more interactive as possible. Well, I'll be definitely sharing my thoughts and my experiences and what needs to be, done for QA and QC as far as translation is concerned. That everything I'll be sharing. But I would like to start with you first today. If in the audience we have people who have been working in this field of QA or QC, particularly pertaining to translation. Okay, then I would like to start with your experiences. What has been your experience? What has been your role in this function? And then if any tools that you have been using, and what is your observation or the processes that you have gone through?
मैं तब नहीं, वो जो सर, अरे वो एक पता नहीं एक लड़की ने भेजा ने, कुछ चल रहा है दूसरे ग्रुप में, पता नहीं वो दे.
Okay, so yeah, I have muted somebody. I hope I have made my point clear. So those who have been working in this field of QA or QC, we would like to start from their experiences. So you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself and then share your experience. Of course, I can start as well, but then I would like to listen to your experiences first today. Yeah. So anybody? Particularly project managers, for example, or those who have been working closely with the QA teams, or from the engineering background for that matter. So
sorry,
yeah.
Could you please repeat your question?
Okay, the question is, today we would like to start with your experiences regarding QA or QC in translation. Okay, so so far, well, we have had 4 sessions, right? And they're primarily like I or the guest speakers like, shared their experiences. So today, from the audience, if we could start, that's the main idea, because we want to make it a community sharing session, open session. So regarding QA or QC in translation, if anybody of you has any experience or uh, has gone through the entire process, has been doing it, if you could share your experiences, may it be about processes, tools, your thoughts, whatever. So just wanted to start there first. Hope the question is clear, or the
Yes, thank you,
thought is
sir.
clear. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So does anybody want to comment anything? So yeah, well, so because you have joined this session, it is clear that some way or the other you have been doing translation, or you are somewhere closely related to this topic, right? So the straight question is, how do you check the translation? What has been your process, for example? That's what we all want to listen to. I'm just facilitating this discussion right now.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
I'm Gayatri.
Yeah, guys. Yeah.
So I have been doing the task of review, language review in entity data.
Okay.
Yeah. So what the process we follow is first we when we receive any project files, then we have estimation, then distribution of task and translation, then language review, which is checking the translation along with the Japanese document,
right?
Whether the glossary or customer specific terminology is applied and all, etc.
Okay.
And then finally we do the technical review, which is to check whether only the English part, whether by reading the English document, whether it is making sense to non-J-scale people.
Right.
So that is the entire process we follow. And for this, right now we are using Rian tool.
Okay.
So when reviewing itself, if we review it in the Rian using Rian,
okay.
So
okay.
We can update the changes in the memory, project memory itself.
Right.
So that makes the task easier to maintain consistency.
Right.
So that's my experience about reviewing.
Okay.
Quality check.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gayatri-san. So thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot. So what Gayatri-san explained right now is the typical TEP process, right? In this industry, we call it TEP. So that is translation, editing, and proofreading. So sometimes proofreading is required, sometimes it is not required. So depends on the quality parameters actually. So yeah, absolutely. So that is the traditional method. That has been the method, and there is no much change to it. But then there are many more things to it. There is a lot more thought that goes into it, and that's the reason why we are basically having this session today. So for some more thoughts from my side, I'll be sharing. But as Gayatri shared her experiences, if anybody wants to share their own experience regarding tools or the processes or something innovative that they have found in this function, anything is fine. Again, sharing is the main aim of these sessions, right? So let it not be, one way from my side. Of course, whatever I know, I have experienced, I'll be sharing it with you all, but please do share your experiences as well. But well, fine. So maybe we'll go ahead a bit, right? So today's session on translation QA. So what is quality basically in the first place, right? What is quality? So quality is very difficult to define actually, right? I could have put it as a quiz, but didn't want to waste much time on that. So let's be upfront. So quality, let's understand that quality is very difficult to define. but still it can be measurable. Okay, so it has both the aspects. So while it is very, very difficult to define, it can still be made measurable, and we can define it. Okay, and that's what we are going to speak about. So quality in general, and of course in translation. Okay, translation is one of the main subjects. Okay, quality is not what you want. So what does that mean? There are people who are very, very fussy about quality. Okay, and the quality is inherent in their personality. Okay, it goes into their DNA, and we are not saying that that's wrong. So if you are a very, very particular person, if you like neat and tidy things, and you want to deliver only the best thing to the client, that's absolutely nice. That is very, very good. But in that process, what happens is the quality parameters or quality expectations become quite centered, or get quite centered into that person's thinking. Okay, so quality is not what you want actually. And most of the times, this is a person who is basically a project manager, maybe, right? Or a project manager, maybe, or the quality assurance department head, for example. Okay, we first need to understand what is quality, and quality is not what you want, but quality is what the client wants. Okay, that's the period. I mean, there is the period after that. So quality is what the client wants. So we need to understand what client needs. So we need to basically first understand requirements. Okay, and you cannot just start any project without understanding the requirements. I'm not discussing any rocket science here, but the problem is particularly about translation. Well, if we start thinking about quality in the field of software or IT or whatever, and translation, if we compare, then in the IT field, these processes are so very now have become natural, right? De facto, that nobody has to think about them. Unless you do a particular thing, you can't move on to the next phase anyway. But in case of translation, that's not the case always, right? We take many things for granted, and we think that we have done it, but actually we do not do it. And then finally, what we get is a bad quality. So particularly when we start thinking about translation, then understanding requirements becomes very, very easy. So having appropriate, adequate discussions with the client, and then going through the documentation, going through the reference manuals and documents that we have received, this everything becomes very, very crucial. Okay, so understanding requirements, formulating a process, okay, maybe the company-wide process or particular to that particular project, is very important. And then training. Okay, the training is on multiple levels. So it can be the process training itself, mechanical training, engineering training, or and as well as human training. So you need to keep on training your human resources as well, and you have to have a plan in place for that. Okay, and this everything has to be done for each and every project, okay, by default. So understand what the client needs, and based on that, formulate a process, train your resources, make sure that you definitely train them, okay, as a default process. Then engineering, you also need to think about what engineering help you would need to ensure quality. Okay, both assure as well as ensure quality. Okay, so about that we will see in the latter half. Then feedback mechanisms. Not all project managers or institutions or organizations, or in fact even individuals, have this in place, feedback mechanisms. So once a match is lost or won, they forget it. Okay, so even a lost match, even a won match needs to be, analyzed. There is a lot of retrospection, introspection there, okay, required, and that feedback has to be documented, and then it has to be used again. So what is that, we will see in the latter half. Okay, so understanding what the quality is what the client wants, and based on that you have to do these 5 things at least. Okay, that's where you start actually. Let's move on. So now, what's the difference between quality assurance and quality control? Okay, this understanding is also very, very important. Not all understand this. Okay, when we start talking about QA, for example. Okay, so I do QA, for example. So we have interviews for QA people, right? And when I ask them, okay, so you are from QA, what do you do? They usually say, well, I have been doing testing. So QA has nothing to do with testing, actually, in a way. Okay, so QA and testing are altogether different things. So this is where we should start. In fact, unless we start here, we cannot go further. Okay, and our quality cannot be assured in the first place. Forget testing it. Okay, so what is QA? QA is quality assurance. So you assure quality, and how do you do that? From the upstream. You have to start doing it from the upstream, right from the requirement gathering phase. Okay, so have you gathered right requirements? Have you analyzed them properly? Have you broken down that into processes and all those 5 things that we saw on the earlier slide? I have flashed that again. So unless you start there, you cannot say that you are doing quality assurance in the first place. Okay, so quality assurance is where we start and not quality control. Okay, so quality assurance. And so what is quality assurance? Well, briefly put, it is ensuring that you do it right. Okay, so it is ensuring that whatever you are doing it in a right manner. Okay, so quality assurance is all about manner. It's all about manner. And so in other words, it's all about processes, right? And the more effort you invest here, the lesser effort would be required in the last phase of quality control, right? And the quality control that I have written below quality assurance is the last phase, and that's the reason why it is also referred to as gates, for example, right? So we have quality gates, and gate is something that is not in the beginning but in the end. So in the end of a particular phase, you have a gate, and that is precisely what quality control is. Okay, a lot of research has been done into this. Quality control is what is the American concept. Okay, so Americans started this quality control. It came from the American military, I guess. And then basically the concept is create a product and check, test it before delivery, and deliver it. Okay, that has been the traditional American concept of QC, right? But what Japan introduced to the world is they call it quality QC cycle or QC circles, actually. Okay, but what they actually mean is QA, where they start from upstream and how do you basically deliver each phase? Okay, is what they basically think more about, and lesser it's and that in that process, what happens, lesser effort needs to be put in quality control or the gate part of it, the actual testing part of it. Okay, why? Because if you do QA properly, then you get lesser bugs, and so the time that you invest in finding the bugs as well as fixing them is drastically reduced. Okay, so this QA is a more Japanese concept, QC is more an American concept. So now you have to amalgamate both these, and QA is where you start, and finally you have to have a proper QC in place where machines can help you. Okay, of course in QA also machines can help, but QC is where now most of the times machines can help you in a better manner. So what is that? We will see in the second half of this. Okay, so I hope QA and QC I have described them separately. Okay, and you have understood what QA is and what is QC is. So QC basically is proving that you have done the right thing. Okay, so QA, let me repeat, is ensuring that you do or you create a thing in a proper manner. And in QC, it is basically testing. Testing is a part of QC. You prove or ensure that you have created a right thing. Okay, so right manner is QA, right thing is QC. Great. Even with this understanding, your whole approach of quality, okay, might change. Okay, this is exactly what happened in my case when I entered this area. 10, 12 years back. Okay, so before that, I also thought that well, QA is testing, but no. When I started studying and then went deeper into this, then the entire spectrum was different for me. Okay, and it made a huge difference in the quality that I help to assure and control. Great. So, well, now who is responsible for the quality? Okay, is the next question. Okay, who is responsible? Well, uh, you would say, well, the linguist is responsible, for example, or the reviewer is responsible, for example, right? Or maybe the person who is directly working on a particular thing is responsible, for example. If I create something, then I am responsible. Of course, I am responsible. But I'm not in the, upstream phase of that responsibility. Okay, while I'm directly related to that particular creation, still I can point fingers to somebody else. Okay, and I would say that, well, okay, I created it this way, but I'm not responsible for this because this is the reason. Okay, so now who is actually responsible for the quality? Two main entities are responsible for the quality. One is senior management. So whatever the senior most management you have in your company, okay, let's start from the owner of the company or the CEO of the company. The senior most person or the body is basically first responsible for the quality. So if you really are aiming at having good quality, then this is the layer where you have to first start breaking the ice from. Okay, so senior management and the commitment from the senior management is very, very important. Otherwise, what happens is, the Gemba people or people who are actually there to work on quality or assure quality or ensure quality, then clashes arise, okay, between the senior management interests and what the delivery is trying to do, okay, and then this is basically not good for quality as a whole. So when we talk about quality, then the senior management commitment is very, very important. Then what is this commitment? We'll describe on the next slide. Okay. So senior management commitment and then project manager. I always believe that every failed project or every successful project, only the project manager is behind that success or failure. Okay, nobody else, because it is the project manager's responsibility to ensure that everything, whatever is happening, is of the defined quality. Again, I'm saying the defined quality, the quality defined for that particular client, for that particular project. So it is the project manager who is responsible for that. So if a translation is not good, then I will never ever blame that particular translator or the linguist. I'll always say that the project manager has not done the right job. Okay, so when it comes to, sharing the responsibility, then the project manager's pie is the biggest one. Okay, even bigger than the senior management, I would say, because it's the project manager's responsibility to bring the senior management as well on the same page. Okay, and convince them about the quality requirements and needs, right? So project manager, why? Because project manager has everything in his or her control, and processes is something that a project manager has to basically come up with, okay, and deploy them and ensure that everything is being done as per those processes. If that is done, then the quality becomes an inherent part. So see, basically quality you cannot put from above. Okay, so quality is inherent to things, and to make that happen, this everything has to come from the process. Okay, and that's the reason why I always stress on QA and not on QC alone. Okay, so let's move on. So do you need a QA department actually? So many companies invest a lot of money and effort and everything on a QA department. I, from my experience now, have come to a conclusion that we actually do not need a QA department. Okay, it's not at all required. We just need two people here, or two bodies. One is senior management and one is project manager for that particular project. Why? if you have proper standards in place, okay, sometimes having ISO is very, very beneficial. So if you are seriously looking for translation quality, then going for ISO is recommended. Okay, so having ISO will basically, ISO is a nice tool that project managers basically have to ensure that they do everything according to the defined processes. Okay, so ISO is treated very badly many a times, particularly by project managers, because they see to ISO as a huge documentation and burden and extra work and etc. But that's basically the main problem. So ISO is not going to increase documentation. In fact, it is there to make things effective. Okay, so based on ISO, if you have your own processes and if you just keep on doing those processes by default, then everything else is reduced. In fact, effort overrun, then your cost overrun, nothing will ever take place. Okay, so senior management should basically show its commitment by encouraging project managers, okay, or the departments to go for ISO. And senior management should not just encourage, but there should be management reviews involved, okay, and audits should be done. So if you, for example, in the audience belong to this category, senior management, then the learning for you or the hint for you today is, if you do not have any standard in place, then try to bring it as early as possible, and just not bring it, but also define your role in the entire process, and that is auditing things. Okay, so you have to have periodic audits and you have to play a very active role in doing that, and that's the reason why I say commitment is required. Okay, and as for project managers, processes, ISO basically will help you to come up with nice processes. And one more thing that you need to do as a project manager is training. Okay, so project managers are equivalent to mentors as well. Project managers just can't be there as postmen. Okay, just passing a file here from here to here. Okay, so for that we do not need project managers. We can actually have monkeys in between, is what I sincerely think, because it's a monkey work actually, just passing a file from here and there. Pigeons used to do that, right? So why do we need brains, human brains there? So project managers are basically there to come up with nice innovative processes, ensure that they get followed, and then training. So training their juniors or training right people in the right faculty. Okay, so all that basically needs to be done by project managers. And believe me, it's not at all a burden. In fact, the project manager, one of the roles of project managers is training. So if a project manager is saying that, well, training people is a burden, then particularly that person has not understood the role properly, or it was not defined for that person when the role was given to that person. So understand that project manager will definitely finally assure and ensure quality. Okay, let's move on. So now a bit more specific about it. So quality in translation. How do you ensure that or assure that in the first place, right? It's like a code quality can be checked or assured, or 1+1 is 2, for example. I have also written a small article on that, and I have posted it on Facebook. So please go and read that if you wish. But quality in translation becomes a very tricky job actually, because we say that, well, it is very subjective, and then it is all style, and you write it this way and I might write it this way. So how do you compare in the first place? But that discussion is a false discussion, is what I always think. Okay, when we say quality in translation, we at least start at the acceptable level of the quality. Okay, and while there are words like preferential or stylistic differences, we should not get bogged down by those words or that thinking. Okay, if you start thinking that way, then it's a free way. Then nobody has any proper answer to it. There is no mathematics involved in that. But no, I always think that assuring quality in translation also can be very, very formulaic if you take a proper approach. Okay, So what is quality in translation? How do you basically ensure it? There are two parts to it. One is coverage and one is correctness. Well, it's not just about translation, but when you in general talk about quality, it is all about coverage and correctness. Most of the times, by correctness, as far as translation is concerned, we say that, well, the translation is correct or not. Okay, that's where we start and that's where we stop as well. But that's not enough actually. It's not just about saying that, well, this translation is correct or not correct. Okay, we need to dig deeper into it and then basically have some machines in place or some engineering help in place to uh, measure this correctness as well. Okay, this can't again be a very individualistic one person thinking. Okay, so it's not that reviewer said that, well, this is wrong and so it is wrong, or this is correct, or and so it is correct. There has to be proper data in place. That data should be utilized and machines should be utilized for taking some decisions regarding correctness as well. And thankfully now the technology has advanced so much that even in the correctness field we can rely more on machines and lesser on human beings. Okay, but well, so correctness is what you need to check, and coverage. So under coverage, these are basically the quantitative things, as we usually say. So quantitative things are missing things, and then inconsistencies, and then spell checks for that matter. So all that coverage thing also needs to be checked in the quality. Okay, so how do you check, and at what stage do you check that? Okay, and basically how do you start doing all such things is again a very, very important question. Okay, so unless you have checklists in place, and these checklists, if they are not automated, then basically you are not giving justice to any of these. I mean, coverage as well as correctness. Let's move on to the next slide. So again, quality in translation and preparation is of vital importance, right? And that's the reason why I say that whenever there is some preparation involved and a project manager is there, then it's the sole responsibility of that particular project manager to prepare the project, okay, or prepare everything that would be required to assure and ensure quality, right? So preparing automated checklists, okay, becomes a part of quality assurance, QA, right? And this drive has to be driven or led by the project manager, and proper help from the engineering department or people who are, I mean, able to do that needs to be leveraged from those people or departments. The responsibility solely lies with the project manager. What all preparation is required, for example. In the earlier discussion, I mean, Gayatri-san, I guess, said that, well, you check for style guides. Okay, things that have been described in style guide, in the review phase, you check for them. How do you do that? Okay, is again a question. So typically style guides are of 40-50 pages, right? And they can have n number of things. So if you expect a reviewer to check all of them, then it's insane in a way, right? It's not possible in a way. It's impossible. So how do you check things that are there in the style guide? So that's where the QA starts. Okay, so quality assurance starts here. So typically how things need to be done. Whenever the first thing you need to do after you get a style guide is you have to assign it to a particular person, okay, typically a linguist, okay, and then get it segregated, that style guide, into qualitative checks and quantitative checks. Okay, so here, so coverage and correctness basically, or understand it as qualitative and quantitative. So give this style guide to some able person, preferably linguist, with some engineering background. If engineering background is not there, then that's even okay, no problem. But basically a linguist, and ask that person. So if the style guide has 50 points and some more sub points, then an Excel sheet needs to be done for each and every point. Okay, And all these 50 points and all sub points should go into that Excel sheet, and each point should have one more column on its right hand side saying that this is a quantitative check and this is a qualitative check. This is a quantitative check and this is a qualitative check, right? So what is a quantitative check? For example, if a style says that, well, the spelling of color, right? COLOUR should not be COLOUR, but it should be COLOR. Okay, so this is a quantitative check actually, in a way. Okay, because it is very, very easy for a machine to check it. Okay, it becomes a quantitative check. But now we can have some qualitative checks as well. Okay, qualitative checks are basically pertaining to grammar of a language or syntax of a language, which a machine may not be able to check on its own. Okay, so you have to segregate that style guide into these two things, quantitative and qualitative checks. So give labels to those checks categories, and then one more column has to be added to that Excel saying that, okay, quantitative checks can anyway be performed by a machine, but within the qualitative checks as well, do I have any checks that can also be given to the machine? Okay, so you should basically have that kind of an Excel in place, okay, and start there. And this is what quality assurance is. So what do you do by your style guide? Usually what project managers do or senior team leads do, they just throw this style guide to the translators or reviewers, and they expect them, reviewers or translators, to do the style guides by heart and also check or reflect whatever has been demanded in the style guides. It's just not possible, understand? Okay, so a project manager should in fact never ever give any style guide to any translator or the reviewer the way it has been received from the client. It basically has to be pre-processed first, the way I told you, in an Excel format, and then if at all, that Excel format should be given to the translator or the reviewer. Okay, and after giving that, a meeting should be held and each style should be discussed with that particular person, and then the project should be started. And believe me, even for urgent projects, this is possible. It's just about commitment and having proper time management in place. Okay, so style guides. Now about style guides, we will see how it is going to help us later. Okay, so these style guides basically are going to get converted into automated checklists. Okay, you have 3 columns, right? So whatever you have now decided that can be given to a machine to test, then this everything will now go into an automated checklist. Okay, and like tools like Rian, for example, have features embedded in them which allow you to upload such checklists and check things against those checklists. So what you are doing is, most of the times 80 to 90% of the style guide as well can be checked by such tools. We will see a small demonstration of that soon. Then localization. So there are culture specific checklists that need to be in place. Okay, if you are translating for a particular domain, for a particular client, maybe for a particular geography, region, whatever, then you should basically have a huge data in place already regarding what suits that client, what suits that domain, what suits that geography, culture, and you have to have a generic checklist in place, okay, to check all such things, right? Colloquialism. Now let's go to the generic checklist here. Now you can go till this level. For example, even if you are executing a technical project, highly technical project, okay, let's assume that it's not a literature project, okay, or non-technical project, it's a highly technical project, but still sometimes what happens is, by mistake, by autocorrection, or by any reason, some obscene words basically get delivered. And I have experienced this on a couple of projects. and it was a huge problem then. Okay, but of course, I mean, clients are also mature enough to understand that such things are never ever done intentionally. But then there is a rework involved in it, and then it really creates a very bad impression as well sometimes, right? And it's awkward as well. So having obscene words list, for example, in place, may it be whatever project. I mean, so from that point onward, we had decided that may it be any project, technical, highly technical, non-technical, we will run all those checklists on all our deliverables. Okay, so having generic checklists. So for this, basically, study is required, having this data in place is required, and ensuring that you use that in your process is also very much important, and that everything becomes a part of quality assurance. Okay, so ensuring that these everything is there in your process is quality assurance, and then actually using it and finding problems, if at all, becomes a part of quality control, right? So obscene words, slangs, colloquialisms, for example. Okay, sometimes words like from and form, okay, get replaced by each other just because of your typing, or sometimes I mean wrong autocorrect. So you do not mean from, but you mean form, and it becomes the other way, and that creates a wrong translation in the first place. So there can be an exhaustive list for such things as well, but this requires intelligence, right? And this intelligence basically is driven by project managers. Okay, so you just don't have to say that, well, reviewers will take care of it. No, it is the project manager who should basically share this intelligence, okay, and ensure that this intelligence gets reflected into proper products, and the products are basically automated checklists. Okay, so let's go on. Feedback mechanism. Feedback mechanism is something horribly missing many a times. Okay, as I said, whether, I mean, even if a match is lost or won, feedback is not given, okay, to the machine or to the people who were involved in that complete process. Okay, everything is forgotten, and then we start afresh, which is a very, very bad thing. So if you do not have a feedback mechanism in place, then I suggest that you have some kind of feedback mechanism in your place. Okay, and this can be, I mean, a simple tool like Excel. Okay, so you can have an Excel based feedback mechanism, or you can even use, I mean, tools like say Redmine, or many other bug tracking tools where you can even track translation related things. Okay, and it can be a really, really nice collaborative platform actually. But having feedback mechanism and sharing that feedback is very important, particularly now as we are talking about machine translation. So this is the era of machine translation, and the in our past 3-4 sessions also, we have been basically talking quite a lot about machine translation and advancements in it. But machine alone cannot do anything unless we have a feedback mechanism in place, and as the pre-processing input data for the machine, if we do not share those feedback with the engineering team, then the machine will not be able to output the expected quality of deliverables, right? So feedback mechanisms and checklists. So if you have checklists in place, then updating those checklists immediately, okay, based on the smallest of feedback from the end user or the client becomes very, very essential. And again, here the project manager's role is to ensure that the checklists are updated. So audits by the project manager, okay, regarding checklists is also very, very important, right? So project managers should not get bogged down by all these things. In fact, this is what the creative work is, and this is what the essential nature of project management is. Okay, again, it's not just about being a postman. Okay, so now let's move on. I'll now show you, I'll share the Rian screen with you, and let's talk something about what Rian has in it. Okay, and till what level you can go and check things. Okay. So I'll just stop sharing this PPT and share my Rian screen. Great. Okay. So I have shared my Rian screen. Hope it is visible. Yeah. Nikhil, is it visible?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Yeah. So now you can see the Rian screen, and well, it's a very, very simple sentence that I have taken as an example, but this can be really, really very complex and integrated. Okay. Say for example, you have some source language. So source language is immaterial right now. It's Japanese, by the way, but well, it's immaterial. Let's target on the target English, which is in fact what we need to test, right? Right now we are in the testing phase, for example. Okay, we are in the review phase, and assume that you have a million such segments to check. Right now we have only one segment in front of us, so it will be very, very easy to find that problem. But if you have million such segments in front of you, then there is no way, or there are chances that you will basically not find issues. So can we find a problem in this sentence? Yeah, anybody quickly, if you could tell me.
I think exactly what is written within this sentence has neither a comma or a full stop.
Yeah, no, punctuation is fine. I mean, punctuation, let's not talk about punctuation. So punctuation, let's assume that punctuation is all there or it's not there, and that's not a problem. But otherwise, do you find any problem?
Yeah, we should have nor instead of or.
Ah, correct. Yeah. So that's the basic problem, right? And that's the problem that we should have found. But as you can see, even if we have one sentence in front of us right now and not million, not all could identify that problem, I guess, immediately. Okay. I mean, might be, I don't know, because everybody's mute. So I don't want to judge that way, but still chances are that many of us couldn't identify this nor problem. Okay, so somebody said it right now. So this sentence has neither a comma nor a full stop. So it should have been nor. How do you find it? How do you find it? Now spell checkers or grammar checkers are quite smart. Those APIs or such things also can be integrated into the editor. But again, that also generates quite a lot of noise as well, right? It can be time consuming as well, because then there can be lots of false positives, and ignoring, I'm checking them one by one, and ignoring also becomes time consuming. So sometimes more than help, they also seem to be, impeding the complete process. Okay, so like relying on grammar checks or such spell checks is good, but sometimes not helpful. Okay, not thoroughly helpful, so then here is where the quality assurance comes into picture. So right now we are in the quality control phase, right? We are testing for the quality, but how do you do that? Unless you have done some quality assurance or something in the quality assurance phase, you will not be able to do QC here, actually. Okay, so how do you do that in Rian, for example? So I'll go to the, so say now, for example, let's go to the QA thing. Okay, so I have clicked the QA tab. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah, and we have something called custom QA, for example. Custom QA here. Okay, so apart from the default checks that are also very, very helpful. Okay, so whether target is empty or not and all such things, the most ignored part, okay, of any QA tool, or as well Rian as well, is unfortunately this custom QA. Okay, custom QA, actually, if you use it wisely and smartly, then it will drastically improve your quality. Okay, and basically help you deliver better quality work. Okay, so this custom QA, what is it? let's run it and then I'll discuss it in detail a bit. So let's run it. So now, as you can see, number of inconsistent segments, we have found one. Okay, we have found one. It is saying that, well, there is some problem in this segment. Okay, and now let's go in and see what the problem is. And hola, so here, right, you got a suggestion saying that nor seems to be missing actually. Okay, so in this particular sentence, nor seems to be missing. So isn't it a fantastic help, right, that Rian has given us now? So this sentence has neither a comma nor a full stop. So you just want to basically take it here, okay, the incorrect sentence, and say nor, okay, and save it. Now the suggestion has gone now. Okay, so it very finely found this mistake in the translation. And again, mind you, this was just one segment and just one check that we did. But just if you think about only English language as your target, which most of the times is, particularly, okay, when we translate from Japanese into English or any other language, we have almost 110 checks only related to English, okay, which go into this custom QA thing, and they check for all such things where probably you have gone wrong as far as English writing is concerned. Okay, so these can be colloquialisms, again, slangs, or missing things, or over exaggeration, for example, or redundancy for that matter, or a flowery language, unnecessary for a technical document. So all such things go into this custom QA. Okay, and if you run that, then you basically get all such suggestions which you can mend and then deliver a fine product. But how did this happen? So these checks basically, okay, need to be listed first, okay, and a checklist needs to be created and uploaded to the custom QA of Rian, and this everything becomes a part of quality assurance, which should be driven and led by a project manager. Okay, so this we saw about English problem, but when we talk about style guide, we also discussed about converting style guides into automated checklists. Then the process is the same actually. You already have that Excel in place, right? Where you have now broken down that style guide into each single checkpoint, and you have also identified which can be automated. And by using, for example, simple things like Microsoft wildcards or regular expressions, you can convert that entire thing into a custom QA checklist, okay, and keep on using it across your projects, right? So here is where the QC is basically helped by the QA that you already did. Great, and the machines are there to help you now in this regard. Most of the cats, Rian has this fantastic feature in it, but outside a cat, outside Rian as well, there are tools like Xbench, for example, or QA Distiller, for example, okay, which will also do the same thing for you. So they are dedicatedly there for quality control, okay. So they are quality control tools. But again, now because Rian has all these things integrated, there is hardly any need to go outside this environment, this ecosystem of Rian, and check things outside Rian and then come back to Rian or come back to your cat and mend those things. It's not required. As you can see, the problems segment was shown right there in front of your eyes to you, and you mended it there itself, and it has now gone safely into the memory, and it is now there for your next reuse, right? So that's how the engineering faculty is also helping us translators. So let's conclude this discussion here, and we will throw open this to the audience, and please, I mean, go ahead and share your experiences now. Now that you have understood what QA and QC and I mean, the engineering part pertaining to it is. So if you now have anything to share with the community, your experiences, these may be again contradictory to what I said right now or in line with what I said right now. So whatever your experiences, thoughts are, whatever you want to share, please go ahead and let's make it a more interactive session. Yeah. So yeah, Nikhil. So I'm done from my side. If you want to, I mean, facilitate that interaction for another 5-10 minutes, okay, then everybody will gain something out of it, and then we will basically conclude the session. Yeah. Yes, Nikhil, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Salil. First of all, for explaining and highlighting the importance of QA in translation. And over to the audience, if anyone wants to share his or her experience in this particular function, then please share.
Yeah. So Gayatri San, you shared your experience. So let me ask Gayatri San. So have you ever used this custom QA check?
No, I haven't used it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that only.
Right.
Maybe I will try once. So do we need to upload any Excel file for that? From our end?
Yeah, right now we have not supported any upload feature as such, but you can create your own checks. Okay.
Okay.
But soon we'll be, I mean, supporting that feature as well, where you can upload your Excel file checklist to Rian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly show you how do you do that. Okay. So this is the project, and we have this custom QA thing. Okay, and this is the basically, and here by using this you can just say you can go on defining the checks.
Okay.
Okay, and this supports regex, regular expression. And what we will be doing is, of course, I mean, right now you have to create all the checks here one by one, but going forward you will be able to upload your Excel checklist as well here. Plus, we will also be giving you some basic inputs regarding regex in Rian itself. So, say for example, you don't know how to write regex, for example. Okay, but you can specify your need in your human language. That, well, I want to check whether a sentence has neither in it but doesn't have nor in it, for example. Okay, so in that human language, if you specify your requirement, then Rian will help you to come up with a proper regex string, okay, which you will create on your own or copy paste from the Rian suggestion, and then the check will be already there, for example. So to find nor, right now we had written something like this. Okay. Okay, so this is typical regex, but first glance at it can be a bit intimidating, particularly for people who are not from the technical background. Okay, so they might think that this is heavy coding, but this is not heavy coding actually. This again is very, very simple, and Rian will soon be giving you some suggestions there, smart suggestions, which you will just copy paste, and such even intricate regex strings will be ready for you to add them into your custom QA check and run them from the earlier QA UI that I showed you. Yeah.
Okay. And do we need to have a separate custom QA for every project, or we can use the same for all the projects?
This is for, for each project you will have to create. But as I said, soon you will be having a facility of downloading this as a list and uploading it. So you just have to download it and keep it ready, and keep on uploading it to whatever project you want to use it in.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are two things. One can be a generic checklist, as we discussed. So this generic checklist can be about that particular target language. Okay, and one more generic checklist can be for obscene things or colloquialisms, for example, or culture specific things. And then one more checklist you can create, which will be specific to the style guide for that particular project. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Salil. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Vaishali-san, it seems you have raised your hand. Yeah. Do you have anything to ask or share? Maybe that was by mistake. No problem. So yeah. So do we have any more insights or anything? Do you want to share? Anybody? I'm sure. I mean, you must be having a lot of inputs, right? So at least one input, if you could share with the community, it will be great. And it will be recorded and it will be on Facebook as well. As you know, we have been, putting this on Facebook, and it has been proving quite helpful for people who are not able to join due to time constraints or other occupations. So please keep on following us on Facebook, as well as please do join us our WhatsApp group as well. Okay. And on group, you will basically get updates regarding our next webinars and other community related activities that we have planned. So be in touch. So yeah, Nikhil, so if we don't have any more questions or nothing more to share from the audience, then maybe you want to conclude? Yeah.
Yes, sure. Still, if you have any queries, any feedback, you can also write to us to freelance@ftbtrans.com, where you can write your feedback in detail as well. Again, if you have any inputs for our session, then that will be helpful for us to make it better in upcoming sessions. And at the same time, if you could write a small post or such on your individual wall, then that will help us to reach out to larger audience for that matter. So yeah, I guess we'll conclude this session now. Hope to see you soon next week, same day, same time, with new topic. Have a great day. Stay safe. Stay home. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And whatever questions you have, if you need any help regarding QA, QC, you can contact us directly. That's absolutely okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
ありがとうございました、先生。
Thank you.